How to wrestle aggressively. This is an email or on the phone. Kids interested in coming to camp, their parents. This is the number one complaint, I would think, at least top 3 or 4. And I always say this, I can run aggressively, I can throw a baseball aggressively, but you can't, I wouldn't be aggressive on a balance beam because it takes a lot of skill. And same way with wrestling. I use the analogy between wrestling and gymnastics all the time just because they're both skill sports. And a lot of times I think the number one reason people aren't aggressive is because there are stopping points in their wrestling. They're not really efficient in all positions. And sure, technique is, we think there's 4 parts of wrestling. One is the mental side of wrestling. The second is positioning. The third is hand fighting and moving your feet, being able to move your opponent and move your feet while staying in a tight position, obviously. And then fourth is technique. And from technique, we don't really think about moves. We look at drill routines. Drill routines. If you implement that strategy and say, I need a handful of drill routines, that's going to change your wrestling. And so once your athlete is engaged in the drill routines, 500 to 2,000 reps, you'll see that aggressive wrestling start to come out. But it's tough to wrestle aggressively if there's sticking points. And that goes to confidence too. Some people say, well, my son or daughter is not confident. Well, maybe I'm not confident taking an Algebra 2 test, but if I studied it and I knew I studied the test review and I got a lot of reps and spent a lot of time, I might be confident about the math test. So confidence is a lot of times, lack of confidence and nervousness is a call to action. It's okay to be stressed out and unconfident sometimes. You write it down. Why am I stressed out? Why am I not confident? Well, there's your answer. Attack that issue, and it might be a technique thing, and it might be, it might be something where this opponent is fast and they score from the outside. So my plan is to touch the mat and to keep my head lower than my opponent's. Always circle to the back leg, especially when my opponent's from the outside. When my opponent goes to the outside, I touch the mat like in a football stance. And now I've studied for this test that's coming up. And I have a game plan. So game plans are very important too. And that goes hand in hand with being confident. Sometimes, or rather being aggressive. Sometimes you don't wrestle aggressively because you're thinking about all the what ifs. So I would say implement drill routines so that from a technique standpoint, you're not lost on the mat, every 30 seconds or so. You shouldn't be lost out there. If you're lost, you're not going to have confidence. Secondly, if you're not confident, a lot of times it can be something that you can remedy that with just diagnosing what about this specific match has me has my confidence shaken a little bit. And because sometimes kids they might have be good technicians, but they're not confident, or they don't wrestle aggressive in certain matches, and that lack of aggressiveness comes from not having a game plan. So I would say don't be lost on the mat. If you are, you need 2,000 reps of, about 6 or 8 really good drill routines from the common positions. A big part of wrestling is not knowing what to do, it's knowing what not to do. And the general training model is random people showing random moves followed by recreational drill time. How about saying, give me a piece of paper or 2 pieces of paper and write down, 95% of your points come from 5% of the wrestling. How does an OU guy beat an Iowa State guy, or an Iowa State guy beat an Oklahoma guy? Write that down on a couple pieces of paper, and don't waste my time with anything else, and make me drill it a couple thousand times. And then you're going to see your aggressive wrestling soar, and your confidence will soar also. So there's a couple of pieces of advice I think that can help the lack of aggressiveness issue that I hear so often. And there's also more on our YouTube, Purler Wrestling Advice. YouTube that, subscribe, and we have about 120 extra videos I haven't posted yet. So a lot of advice on many different areas of wrestling.